Hi, my name's Steffi. I love film, and this is my review on the 2026 Wuthering Heights, directed by Emerald Fennell. A big disclaimer before I jump into my review: I have not read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, so this film review is purely from the perspective of someone who has not read the book. From what I understand, Fennell actually wasn't trying to tell a faithful retelling of the novel. Fennell has actually publicly come out and said that she is purely creating her own interpretation of the novel, specifically drawing from her memories of reading the book as a young girl, and that also explains the quotation marks in the title of the movie. I know a lot of people online are criticizing the movie for not being a true adaptation of the book, but I don't think it's meant to be true to the novel, so yeah. But anyway, let's jump into my film review. Honestly, Wuthering Heights is psychologically disturbing. The film feels more like a gothic horror than a romance film. Rather than presenting a sweeping love story, it offers a cautionary tale of the destructive, obsessive and selfish side of love. The film is rated R, and it absolutely earns that rating, but not in the way that you think. At its core, this film follows Catherine and Heathcliff, two people whose love consumes not only each other, not only themselves, but also everyone around them. They claim to love each other, yet they repeatedly hurt each other, and they manipulate the closest people around them to provoke jealousy and assert control on one another. Their relationship feels less like love and more like possession and just a tortured love story. By the end of the film, it becomes very clear that this film is not a traditional love story. It's about selfishness, dominance, and emotional control. Much of it seemingly rooted in unresolved childhood trauma and personal circumstances. Instead of working through their pain and instead of working through their trauma, they simply continue to perpetuate the cycle. They trap themselves in this continuous loop of harm, which unfortunately leads to the tragic death of Catherine. Sorry, spoiler alert. While the film is totally disturbing, the film, in my opinion, does a really, really good job of showing the unhealthy emotional dominance and the codependency that each of the characters have over each other. I watch a lot of love stories, whether it's through film, TV shows, or anime. And what I often really love about a good love story is that you see a great story of a couple helping each other to heal, helping each other to grow, and helping each other to overcome obstacles. And let me tell you, Catherine and Heathcliff do not grow, they do not heal, and they do not overcome obstacles together. They just continue to spiral and feed off each other's toxicity. The film explores generational trauma, violence, entitlement, control, destruction, and yes, there's also lust. There is a great deal of lust. They feed off each other's lust. But I wouldn't say that there is much genuine love in this film. At times, both Catherine and Heathcliff just become completely exhausting to watch. They're toxic, self-indulgent, and emotionally reckless. The codependency throughout the entire film between all the characters is also super layered. It's not just between Catherine and Heathcliff, it goes for pretty much everyone in the film. Every character in the film is codependent on each other, whether it's emotionally, physically, or financially. From everyone being financially dependent on Mr. Earnshaw, at the beginning of the film while he did have his fortune. Then Mr. Earnshaw being financially dependent on Kathy after he loses his fortune. Heathcliff's codependency on Mr. Earnshaw at the beginning of the film as a young boy. Nellie's codependency on Kathy and her family, and then her continuous codependency on Kathy as she moves out and even marries. Kathy's codependency on her rich husband, Isabel's codependency on Heathcliff, and of course there's Catherine's and Heathcliff's codependency on each other. Every relationship in this film is transactional, controlling, and codependent. I also personally found the marketing of this film a bit misleading. The promotional material suggested a sweeping romance with intense intimacy. While there was a lot of tension and desire, I personally expected more boldness in that department. The film is super long, and by the time the film reaches any moment of intimacy, it felt underwhelmed, and it continued to feel underwhelming throughout the entire film. I personally just wanted a bit more, and I just don't think they delivered on that part. Putting on my film critic hat, I'm just simply left feeling conflicted and a bit confused about this movie. The film felt horrifying at times. It felt super dark. I'm not entirely sure whether the story itself was flawed or whether the director herself managed to just simply change a bad story into a pretty well-dressed film, because outside of the horrific, toxic story, there are definitely undeniable great elements of the film. Visually, the film is stunning. Every frame in this film feels like a painting. Costume design is equally impressive, textured, and rich. Visuals are surprisingly playful at times, which creates an interesting contrast of the darkness of the storyline. If the film had been as visually heavy as the themes of the storyline, it would have been totally unbearable to sit through and watch. Another shout out for me was actually Isabel's character. I wanted more of her. At times, she brought much needed humour and comedic relief during really dark times of the film. Her transformation throughout the film is also very dramatic. And as I said before, I just wanted more of her. There's this one specific scene when Nellie storms into a room and Isabel barks at her. And I swear to God, when this moment happened, I almost fell off my chair. Unfortunately, I didn't connect with the soundtrack of the film. I'm a big soundtrack person when it comes to film, and for me, I didn't get it. I've seen a lot of reviews online, and I've seen a lot of people say they wish they went into the film with an open mind without having read the book, without needing to compare the movie to the book. Because if that were the case, they think they might have enjoyed the film more. And in that particular example, I am that person. I went into the film watching it from the perspective of someone who has not read the book and had no expectations shaped by the novel. And yet, the film didn't fully land with me. What I took out of this movie and what stayed with me was the lack of closure, as the cycle of violence and toxicity continues right until the very end of the film. The obsession beyond death lingers. There's no healing, there's no redemption. There's only possession and obsession that transcends beyond the grave. I simply left the cinema feeling unsettled and deeply sad. In summary, the 2026 film Wuthering Heights is a visually beautiful film about emotionally ugly people. And whether that's what makes it a great film, I'm entirely unsure.